Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Robert.
And I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
In our top story, Iran is building a new nuclear facility which is believed to be out of range of American bunker buster bombs. Recent satellite photographs obtained and analyzed by the Associated Press show subterranean construction near the Natanz nuclear site. Experts believe that when completed, it will be impenetrable. Kelsey Davenport, the director of the Nonproliferation Policy at the Washington-based Arms Control Association, explained that the completion of this highly fortified location would be a nightmare scenario that risks igniting a new escalatory spiral. Nuclear inspectors in Iran have found uranium particles enriched to 83.7% purity, which is a very short technical step from the 90% needed for an atomic bomb. And the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency estimates that Tehran already has enough enriched uranium to make not one, but several nuclear weapons.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be traveling to the United Arab Emirates later this year. A formal invitation was presented to the premier by the UAE ambassador to Israel, Mohammed El-Hajjah. This will be the Israeli leader's first official journey to the Gulf state, although Netanyahu did make several clandestine trips to the UAE in the months leading up to the signing of the historic Abraham Accords, which saw the normalization of ties between Israel, the UAE, Morocco, and Bahrain.
The Biden administration is deeply troubled by the prospect of Jews returning to the Sumerian town of Chomesh. Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant issued an order allowing Israelis to enter the village after the Knesset gave its approval to repeal several articles of the disengagement law, which saw the eviction of Jews from 4 towns in Judea and Samaria, as well as the communities of Gush Katif. The new directive allows Israelis to re-enter Chomesh. The State Department immediately issued its objection to the return of Jews to their ancestral and biblical homeland. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said, "We are deeply troubled by the Israeli government's order that allows its citizens to establish a permanent presence in Chomesh." And he added that the administration views the advancement of Israeli communities in Judea and Samaria as an obstacle to the two-state solution.
The United States Congress is considering legislation which would require the Secretary of State to submit annual reports on U.S. aid used to fund Palestinian textbooks that include anti-Semitism or incitement to violence. This bipartisan measure has already passed unanimously in the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman Brad Sherman explained that the current Palestinian curriculum erases Israel from maps, refers to Israel only as the enemy, and asks children to sacrifice their lives to liberate all of the land between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. Congressman Brian Mast explained that hate and intolerance are learned behaviors, and there's absolutely no reason why U.S. taxpayers should be funding that type of instruction. He believes this bill can help break the generational cycle of hatred and move toward a peaceful and secure Israel.
CNN is in hot water after its chief international anchor, Christiane Amanpour, falsely reported on the execution of 3 Israeli women by Palestinian terrorists. Lucy, Maya, and Rina D. were gunned down by Arab murderers who opened fire on their vehicle, then shot them dozens of times at close range. In her coverage of the tragedy, Amanpour claimed that the women were killed in a shootout, insinuating that there was an exchange of gunfire. Bereaved husband and father Rabbi Leo D. told Israel's I-24 News the fact that it was reported that they were killed and not brutally murdered by evil Palestinian terrorists funded by Iran is typical CNNism, which he has referred to as terror journalism, where they attempt to show a moral equivalence between the terrorist and the victim. He demanded a public apology and a retraction of the false story. 6 weeks after the original report and just 24 hours after Adi announced that he would be filing a lawsuit against CNN, Amanpour did apologize on air, saying that she misspoke.
Israel's Minister of Intelligence, Gila Gamliel, believes that more Arab and Muslim states are seeking peace with the Jewish state. In her keynote address at the House of Representatives' Congressional Israel Allies Caucus event marking Jerusalem Day, Gamliel said, "The dynamics are changing and regional peace is tangible." Israel's Foreign Minister Eli Cohen seems to agree. He recently expressed his optimism in the advancement of ties between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Cohen said there is a good chance that the countries will sign a peace agreement within the year.
A delegation of Israeli paramedics from Magen David Adom are traveling to several synagogues throughout California to train their staff in first aid. The program focuses on saving lives during and immediately after a crisis, particularly in the first 7 minutes prior to the arrival of first responders and emergency personnel. Raphael Herbst, a senior paramedic with MADA, told the Jewish News Syndicate, "Our training is about empowering communities and giving them the confidence to know that by working together, they can act to save lives in the immediate aftermath of an attack or disaster."
Yad Vashem, Israel's National Holocaust Memorial and Museum, has rejected a significant donation from Christie's auction house after it sold jewelry with ties to a Nazi war criminal. The 25-carat Sunrise ruby and diamond ring by Cartier and a 90-carat Briolet of India diamond necklace by Harry Winston were just two of the 700-piece collection owned by the late Austrian billionaire Heidi Horten. Her husband, Helmut Horten, was a Nazi who made his fortune by forcing Jews to sell property under duress at a drastically undervalued price. Christie's originally failed to report the provenance of the jewelry, prompting Jewish and Holocaust organizations to call for a suspension of the sale until research into the Nazi-era acquisitions could be completed. Rabbi Abraham Cooper, the associate dean of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, appealed to Christie's not to reward those whose families may have gained riches from desperate Jews targeted by the Nazis. Christie's moved forward with the sale, fetching $202 million, making it the largest jewelry sale in history.
Israel and Saudi Arabia are reportedly in the advanced stages of negotiations for direct flights during the Hajj. Last year, about 2,700 Israeli Muslims made the pilgrimage to Mecca, and this year the number is expected to more than double. Riyadh currently insists that all pilgrims traveling from the Jewish state must stop over in a third country before entering Saudi Arabia. But the U.S. brokered negotiations seek to end this inconvenient and expensive requirement. Muslims are obligated to travel to the Kaaba during the Hajj at least once in their lifetime, and the ability to fly directly to Saudi Arabia from Israel would make the pilgrimage holiday much easier for Muslims in the region.
2 Israeli hospitals have made major investments in proton therapy for cancer patients. This technology uses proton beams in radiation therapy, which are more precise and less toxic than X-ray radiation beams. Last year, the Journal of American Medical Association published a study showing that patients treated with proton therapy were much less likely to suffer severe side effects. Both Hadassah Medical Center and Ichilov Hospital are heavily investing in the future of proton therapy.
Researchers at the City of David, excavating the Pilgrimage Road, announced that they discovered a 2,000-year-old receipt. The stone tablet fragment bears the Hebrew name Shimon, as well as etchings of numbers and letters. Archaeologists believe that it is a merchant's accounting record. Professor Esther Eshel from Bar Ilan University said this inscription attests to the widespread literacy in Israel during the Second Temple period. She added that the discovery of descriptions from daily life are evidence that many people knew how to read and write during this time. The Pilgrimage Road excavation has yielded some of the most exciting archaeological finds in Jerusalem and is known as the flagship project of the IAA. It runs 1/3 of a mile in length and was host to shops and stands catering to pilgrims making the trek from the Pool of Siloam up to the Temple Mount.
The Codex Sassoon, one of the oldest nearly complete Hebrew Bibles in existence, has been purchased for $38 million at auction, making it one of the most expensive books ever sold. The scroll was written 1,100 years ago on almost 800 pages of sheepskin. It includes all 24 books of the Tanakh, or Hebrew Bible. Alfred H. Moses, the former U.S. ambassador to Romania, submitted the winning bid at Sotheby's auction house on behalf of the American Friends of the Anu Museum of the Jewish People in Tel Aviv. Moses said the Hebrew Bible is the most influential book in history. It constitutes the bedrock of Western civilization. He explained that it was his mission to see that the Codex Sassoon resides in a place with global access to all people.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Bobby Brown. He's the Senior Vice President at Ariel University. Bobby, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Josh.
Tell our viewers a little about what is Ariel University.
Ariel University is Israel's newest and most innovative university. We are a Zionist university. We're located in the town of Ariel, beautiful Samaria. We have 17,000 students, and some of the best research in Israel is coming out of Ariel University, as well as innovative teaching and very breakthrough research.
It's really amazing. You hear about Ariel University all the time now. One of the things that got a lot of attention was you have a program where you actually found the seeds from the time of King David, and now you're reproducing the wine that King David drank. Can you tell us about that?
Well, we've gone one step further since that time. Jurassic grapes is what we've done is our researchers found the mother of all grapes, and that was the first grapes that man knew were in the Galilee, and they were found 11,000-year-old grapes. So really the father of winery is the country of Palestine, Israel, and we really invented wine.
You also have a proton accelerator, one of the only in the Middle East. Can you tell us about that?
It's a particle accelerator, and we've become really almost the world's expert on compact particle accelerators. So in CERN, they have one that's 70 kilometers long. Ours is about 1.5 meters.
Wow. And you guys just opened your new medical school as well. Can you tell us a little about the medical school?
We have the newest medical school in Israel. We were just reviewed by the authorities, the educational authorities in Israel, and they said it's on par with the best of medical schools in Israel, that they will give us permission to go from 70 students a year to 120, and that we'll be allowed to give PhDs to MDs, which is a tremendous honor for such a new school.
One of the initiatives that you started is reaching out to Christian universities as well to get them involved with what we're doing. Why was that important to you?
Well, Christian universities feel very close to Ariel because we're not a Bible school, but we believe in Zionism. We believe in the land of Israel. We do everything we can to promote Israel. And very often, their ideals and ours are very close. We have often, for instance, we don't teach Bible, but we have many, many Christian schools who want us to teach about archaeology, because our view of archaeology usually follows that of the Bible.
Yeah, you have an incredible archaeological program. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's going on right now with that?
Well, one of the things they're doing is they're doing a survey of Samaria of the northern kingdom. There's been a lot of work done in Judea, in the southern kingdom, but in the northern kingdom, really the last very complete research done on it was done in 1930. And of course, archaeology has changed since then. It's a whole different thing. And being that not much was being done, and being that some universities are nervous to come into Judea and Samaria, the people who are most interested in archaeology tended to be Arab citizens of Judea and Samaria who were interested in finding artifacts and selling them on the market and causing tremendous damage. So we are now doing a survey. We have 4 active archaeological sites, 3 in Samaria, and we're uncovering new things every day.
Last year you gave your first honorary doctorates, and you decided to select former Vice President Mike Pence and former Ambassador David Friedman. Why were those 2 individuals someone who deserved an honorary doctorate from Ariel University?
Well, as I said, we are a Zionist university, and those two had both proven themselves to do things that helped the state of Israel, and in fact, they also helped Ariel, because we used to have geographical limits on where we could apply for research grants. And the U.S. administration, the last one, took those geographical limits off. So we could begin applying, nothing was promised us, but we could apply for research grants. And the first year we applied for 6, and incredibly, we got 3 from the United States government. Now we're still being boycotted by the European Union, who if we came and said, we have a cure for cancer, we need $5,000, can you help us? They would say no. Okay, and we hope, just as the American administration changed it, the last administration changed it, this administration has kept it, that we can also eventually convince the Europeans that we are a force for good.
There are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
We are really a quality university, but we're also a popular one. And also, because we're not 50 years or 100 years old, we can be flexible, we can do things that other people can't. And I think we are very responsive to tradition and to history and to the Bible and to God. And I think that makes us in a special category that especially Bible-believing Christians can find common ground with us, help us, and work with us to develop Barrio into a much bigger and better university even than it is today.
Thank you, Bobby, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Karen Hayesod. I'm Sam Grunberg, World Chairman of Karen Hayesod, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. This week, we will learn about the righteous among the Gentiles. Throughout Israel's modern history, many Christians have risked their lives and the lives of their families to defend the Jewish people and God's covenant with Israel.
As the Nazis ruthlessly set about their demonic plan to eradicate the Jewish people, Europe became an accomplice to humanity's darkest hour. While the Nazi gas chambers and killing fields extinguished the lives of 6 million Jews, Europeans overwhelmingly turned a blind eye to the horror unfolding, or worse, became accessories to genocide. God's compassion appeared to have abandoned Europe, an entire continent devoid of humanity. Yet a handful of people refuse to forget the Bible's teaching in Genesis 1:27. God created man in his own image. Unimaginably risking their own lives, these people demonstrated that even in Europe's sea of darkness, human kindness and mercy can shine through. Seeking nothing in return, these Christians jeopardized everything in order to save Jews from facing certain death. Often hiding entire Jewish families for months, sometimes years, they lived in constant fear of discovery and cruel retribution at the hands of the Nazis.
Et quand moi j'allais pleurer, si je puis dire, pour qu'on prenne les enfants, et quand je racontais ce qui s'y passait, qu'on arrachait les gens de leur maison, on lançait leurs vêtements par la cage d'escalier et on les emmenait par camion à Malines.
In appreciation of their remarkable deeds, these angels on earth have been honored by Israel as the righteous among the nations. Exactly how many Jewish lives were saved by these brave individuals, we don't know, but they joined the hundreds of thousands of Holocaust survivors that Karen Hayesod supporters helped extricate from Europe's inferno to reach Israel. They came from 51 countries, from all churches, from all walks of life, from remote farms, city slums, universities, high society, and beyond. They were bound by just one thing: the determination to preserve humanity in the face of all evil. Some of their stories are well known, the likes of Oskar Schindler and Raoul Wallenberg, but lesser-known heroes too, such as Adolf Althoff, Father Hubert Solis, and Leopold Socha, showed the same unimaginable courage. All carried a bright torch of humanity in a Europe enveloped by moral darkness. Avraham Savion was just 9 years old when the war broke out. At the age of 12, he was taken in by a Christian family who risked their lives and the lives of their children to save this one Jewish boy. When word got out that they were hiding a Jew, they arranged for Avraham to be taken in by a church where other Jewish boys were hiding out as well. There, they provided for his every need until he was reunited with his relatives. Righteous among the nations helped fulfill the divine wish to restore the people of Israel to their land. The descendants of those saved today number in the millions, building their lives in the Jewish state with the help of Keren HaYesod. Today, 70 years after the Holocaust, too many Jews still remain in distress and danger in perilous corners of the globe. Now is our opportunity to continue the legacy of the righteous among the nations by assisting in the rescue of these Jews to make a new life in the land of their forefathers.
Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, visit khisrael.org.
And now, Shining Light from Israel.
Located in Jerusalem, within the walls of the Old City, is the Western Wall. Shalom, everyone. On today's tour, we are going to go underground with the Western Wall Heritage Foundation in order to visit sites that have just recently been opened up to the general public. It's called the Great Bridge Tour. So come with me as we head underground. All right, this is absolutely amazing. We're finally inside the Western Wall Tunnel Tour with our expert guide here, Nahum, from the Western Wall Heritage Foundation. And even though it looks like we're underground right now, 2,000 years ago, when this arch behind me was constructed as part of that great bridge that I spoke about before, this is the top of that bridge. And what we're gonna do now, with Nahum's assistance, is we're gonna go down below the bridge to see those new discoveries that have just been discovered here in what, the last 10 years? Something like that. Incredible. So let's head down now. We're literally descending here about 2.5 stories. Here's another arch. We saw the upper arch, this is the lower arch. And as we descend these 2.5 stories, we're literally going back in time 2,000 years. Behind me, you can see these two arches, which is the foundation of that great bridge that connected the Western Hill, where the priests lived during the Second Temple period, where the Jewish quarter is of the Old City today, and the Temple Mount, like the temple itself. The bridge also served as an aqueduct, bringing water from Gush Etzion, from the area of Efrat where I live, just south of Jerusalem, so that there would be ample water for all of the services that were taking place on the temple. Jerusalem is layered and layered and layered and layered. So much history here. Every time you peel away one of those layers, you discover something completely new. And when archaeologists came here and they started digging down, what they discovered below that dates after the construction of the bridge. And after the construction of this ornamental building you can see over here is a Jewish ritual bath known as a mikvah. And this is where people would come in order to purify themselves. Absolutely incredible to see all of this happening just right here and just recently discovered. All right, so the wall that you can see behind Nahum over here with the pillars that are lit up is the same edifice that we saw in the other section. However, this one is much more preserved. We don't know why the exterior of the wall in that other area was so damaged, but it was. Here you can see the gorgeous pillars. At the top of these pillars, there are holes that would take water from the aqueduct and water would flow out from the top, and people could come here in order to gather water after their long journey on their pilgrimage to Jerusalem to visit the temple. You can imagine how thirsty they were to get fresh, cool spring water from the springs of Gush Etzion. And we all know how precious water is here in the Middle East, and especially here in Israel. So they actually have a drainage channel on the floor that would take all the excess water in order to use it for some other purpose. Just absolutely amazing. The Western Wall that you visit outside has been exposed to the elements since it was constructed. However, this area here has been buried underground for roughly about 1,700 years. So when they excavated this area only about a decade ago, and they removed all of the dirt, what was left was this incredible section of the Western Wall. What you have over here is classic Herodian stones, and each stone would have been inlaid roughly about 2 centimeters from the stone below it without any concrete or adhesive, just the weight of the stone keeping all of this intact. So the next time you visit Jerusalem and the Old City, make sure to visit the Western Wall Heritage Foundation and do one of their incredible tours here to learn more about what is below the surface here in the Old City and along the Western Wall.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan El Rome, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.